Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So in the last class we saw that the disciple being instructed by the Guru, resulting in his realization. At last he is expressing his gratitude to his spiritual preceptor, and where the last verse which we studied that had that wonderful idea that when we are in sleep, we are in the grip of some dreadful nightmare, and then someone comes and gently awakens us, and the dream vanishes, and we find we are peaceful. So that is the gentle touch of the Guru who wakes us up from our terrible dream by making us realize our infinite nature, our real nature. So he is the one who wakes us up from this long dream. We don't know for how long it's going on. And he wakes us up from that dream. And that he does out of his sheer grace and pure love. There is no other selfish motive behind that. So that's why the disciple is expressing his deep gratitude to his Guru. And now we will find that today the section which we are taking up is the final instruction of the Guru to his disciple. Before we come to the conclusion of the study of the Vivekachudamani for the time being, we find that these are almost in this last section of Vivekachudamani, where we find the Guru is giving the final instruction to his disciple. So what the Guru is saying, so now the disciple has already went to that realization. The realization that Brahman alone exists. In the depth of his samadhi, he has realized that Brahman alone exists. Now how to live the life after such realization? And that's we find Guru is instructing his disciple. In the 520th verse, what he's saying? Brahma pratyaya santatihi jagat atah brahmaiva tat sarvatah pashya adhyatma drisha prashanta manasa sarvasu abhasthasu api रूपात अन्यत अवेक्षितं किं अभीतः चक्षुष्मतां दृश्यते तत्वत् ब्रह्मविदः सतः किं परं बुद्धे विहारास्पदम्. So what it's actually this verse means? So let us take part by part. Brahma pratyaya santati jagat. Brahma pratyaya. So what is pratyaya? If you all can recollect when we were studying the Yoga Sutra, it starts with this vritti. That the entire aim of the yoga is to suppress the vrittis. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. And after studying that, we studied that the way to stop that vritti, we have to take care of the contents of the vritti. So at present they are sarvarthatha, they has to become ekagra, one vritti, it has to be one pratyaya. So what is the pratyaya means? The word pratyaya means, which we find here, the content of the vritti. So what he is saying? Brahma pratyaya santati jagat. So when a man of realization comes back from his realization, Vyutthana means wakes up from his realization, then this world changes for him. Each and every vritti, the content of the vritti, the pratyaya, means what he is experiencing is Brahman and Brahman alone. So Brahma pratyaya santatihi jagat. So in this world, whatever he sees, he can see the Brahman behind it. So does he not see the world? He sees it. Just the way when you know that we were seeing a snake in a rope. When someone brings a torch and our ignorance vanishes, do we see the rope anymore? Or do we see the snake anymore? No. So these two vision cannot go on simultaneously. The vision of the rope and the snake, these two cannot go on simultaneously. So when I am seeing the snake, I don't see the rope. The moment I see the rope, the snake has vanished. So for a man of realization, says behind is each and every perception, what he sees is Brahman and Brahman alone. So that's what he is mentioning. Brahma pratyaya santatihi jagat. Atah brahmaiva tat sarvatah. So hence it is in all respects nothing but Brahman. So as we were saying, does he not see the world? He sees it, but he sees it as consciousness and consciousness alone. As Sri Ramakrishna says, just if when someone has made a model of the entire city with the wax, there everything, all the buildings, all the landscapes, whatever we see is made of wax and wax alone. So similarly, what the world which he sees now is as if a construct of consciousness and consciousness alone. So that's how he sees the world. So once we realize that all the utensils which are made of clay, then we know that the name and the form is something superficial. In essence, that each and every utensil is nothing but clay and clay alone. So that's how. It's not that he won't be seeing the shapes, he won't be seeing the world. What he sees is the consciousness alone which is manifesting as this world. So, Brahmaiva tat sarvata. He sees Brahman alone. Pashya adhyatma drisha prashanta manasa sarvasu abasthasu api. So, see this with the eye of, he sees this with the eye of illumination. Pashya adhyatma drisha. Drisha means to see. And that seeing is now having an adjective, adhyatma. With the eye of illumination he is seeing. Prashanta manasa, his mind has become prashanta, prakrishta rupena, shanta, serene. So what does serene mind means? What does serenity speaks? Won't we see the world? As we said, you see the world. First you see the consciousness alone, and the second, serenity speaks of all the desires which are linked with our perceptions. They have fallen. So there are two types of vrittis, Jnana vritti, Klishta vritti. When we were studying the Yoga Sutra, if you remember, that when I am seeing the table, it is just the table. My emotions are not linked with it. But when I see my own house, when I see anything with which the idea of the idea of mamatva, mine is there, we find that emotion gets linked with that perception. So that becomes klishta. Klishta means when all this, your liking, disliking gets linked with your perceptions, that become klishta. So we will find our mind becomes turbulent only when all these desires, the likes, dislikes, fears, that get associated with our perception. When that has fallen, the perception is still there, but the mind is in no way getting agitated. So that's what is been spoken of when it is spoken by the word, that it means this prashanta manasa, that there is no more desires. All the desires which were attached, which were associated with your perceptions, they have fallen off. What it speaks of, just that example which we give again and again, that Swamiji for the first time experienced the mirage. He saw a huge reservoir, he was thirsty, he approached, and then suddenly it vanished, and then the idea came, oh, it's a mirage. So for the first time the realization has happened. So next day when again he is passing through the desert, won't he see the mirage? Yes, he again sees the mirage. But he knows for certain that it is just a mere projection. As long as the desert is there, it is projected. It as such has no such tangible reality. As a result, what happens? The last day, the previous day, he was drawn towards it. The liking was there. Raga, Dvesha, Abhinivesha were all involved with his perception. Today the perception is still there, but all those attachments has fallen off. That's what is indicated by Prashanta Manasa. As he sees that this Brahman as the substratum of all his, behind all his perception, the mind has lost its attachment towards all his perceptions. So Prashanta Manasa, as he sees everything with the eye of illumination. Sarvasu abhasthasu api. And it is something for which you don't have to sit for meditation. That, oh, my mind is getting distracted, let me sit for meditation. In meditation I calm down my mind. I have that conviction, everything is Brahman. And when I get up from my seat, from meditation seat, I am dealing with the world, and then I find that the world is distracting me. But once that realization happened, then in all conditions, sarvasu abhasthasu api, that realization can never be obliterated. That realization becomes the background of your perception. In every condition, avastha, whether you are in deep sleep, whether you are dreaming, whether you are in waking state, no more there is a chance of getting deluded. When once you have that adhyatma drishti, once with the sight of your illumination, once you have went to that realization, then you see Brahman and Brahman alone in all conditions. There is no need for meditating and sitting and going to the samadhi to experience that. In all the states, you experience Brahman and Brahman alone. And then a nice example has been given. What? Rupat anyat avekshitam king abhita chakshus matang drishyate. So for us, for an ordinary person, for all those who are unillumined, with our eyes, can we see anything other than the objects? The moment I open my eyes, I am bound to see the objects. It doesn't depend on what the state of my mind is. That when I am calm, then only I see the objects. When my mind is agitated, I see something else. No. In all conditions, for an ordinary being, for an unillumined person, with these eyes, I see objects and objects alone. Similarly, Tattvat Brahmavidah, the one who is Brahmavit, the one Brahmavit, Vit means the knower, the one who has realized, known the Brahman, Brahmavit, Satah, King Parang Buddhe Viharaspadam. So accept Brahman, in what his intellect can be engaged for a man of realization. It can, vihara means to get engaged, to be related to something. So this, he cannot, trade upon anything else apart from Brahman and Brahman alone. Just for an ordinary person, the way the eyes see the objects, his eyes see Brahman and Brahman alone. As we find in the Upanishads also it is mentioned, yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra param padam drishyate. So wherever my eyes fall, I see that param padam, the absolute reality. Even in Chaitanya Bhagavatam, we find that same idea. So Krishna, when comes down from the state of samadhi, from his antardasha, what he is saying? Jatra jatra netra pare, tatra tatra Krishna sphure. That wherever my eyes fall, I see Krishna is blooming, as if popping up from each and every object in this world. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we find the same idea. What he is saying? That the way in the rainy season, the way when you are walking on a lawn, you find the entire lawn, the grass, is drenched in water. Similarly, I see the entire world drenched in consciousness. So this is the idea, that once you go to that realization, you see the divine and divine alone. That's the idea with which the Ishopanishad starts. This first mantra of the Ishopanishad. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita ma grida kasya siddhanam. The first line is very important. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. In this world, whatever you see is moving, all the things, animate and inanimate objects, whatever. Ishavasya, it has to be pervaded by the Isha, by the Lord and Lord alone. Why? Because that's the fact. A man of realization sees the Lord and Lord alone. So, and that's the conclusion even of Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya, that what? Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya Jiva Brahmaiva Na Aparaha. The only reality is the Brahman. Jagat is Mithya. Mithya means what? Is it an imagination? No, not an imagination. The Mithya means something which is superimposed. This Jagat is superimposed on Brahman. In that sense, it is Mithya. It is not just a mere imagination. It is not Alika. Alika is just if I imagine there is a palace in the sky, that I'm building castle in the air. You can imagine. But is it ever existent? No. That is imagination. Is the world that way an imagination? No. It's not an imagination in that sense. What it says that something is there which is appearing as this world. The substratum is Brahman. In that sense, Jagat is Mithya. Jiva Brahmaiva Nahapara. After saying that, he is saying that whatever you see is nothing but Brahman and Brahman alone. So why he is saying this? That because the disciple has came back from Samadhi. And now that that because of his prarabdha, he is now a Jivan Mukta. He will be staying in this world maybe for some more time, till his prarabdha gets exhausted, till all the actions which has resulted in this birth gets exhausted. So how to lead the life? So that's what Guru is. It is already the disciple has realized that. Guru is just substantiating his realization by these words. The next verse, what it is saying, 522nd verse, Kastang Paramananda Rasanubhutim Utsrijya Sunyeshu Rameta Vidwan Chandre Mahaladini Dipyamane Chitrendum Alokaitum Ka Ichet. Kastang Paramananda Rasanubhutim. That what wise man would discard that enjoyment of the supreme bliss, Param Ananda. Rasanubhutim, that the enjoyment, the rasa which come from that supreme bliss. Kastang Utsrijya. Who will discard? Utsrijya means to discard. And indulge in something which is unsubstantial. Shunyeshu Rameta Vidwan. Just that again and again we relate to that Swamiji's experience. Once have you experienced that the mirage, can you anymore think of enjoying the quenching your thirst by drinking the water which you see as this projected huge reservoir? No. It's because it is shunya. It has no substance as such. So once you have realized that supreme bliss in your realization, once you have dived deep within to realize the bliss of the self, which it is nature, how can he any more indulge in something which is unsubstantial, which has no reality? Sunyeshu Rameta Vidwan Chandre Mahaladini Dipyamane. So when the exceedingly charming moon is shining, Mahaladini, extremely this charming. Ladini speaks of Allada, means full of bliss. So this moon, we find at the night, when the full moon night, just looking at the moon, we find that it is so pleasing. It pleases the mind, it calms down the mind. So this moon, once I have seen that, can I anymore enjoy just a painting of the moon? Once I have seen the real moon, Chitrendum Alokaitum Kaichat. Chitrendum, a painted moon. Who would wish to look at a painted moon? One he has seen the real moon. So this world is just like that painted moon. It is a projection. It's virtual. So there is no question of indulging in it. Previously, whatever bliss I got from the world, out of ignorance I thought that the world was giving me that happiness, but actually it was coming from the self. That example which we give again and again, that it is our desires which obstructs the bliss of the self. The self is always blissful. That bliss is filtered out by the desires. When a desire is fulfilled, for the time being the mind is desireless. The obstructing factor for the bliss, which is the essence of our existence, has been made redundant for the time being. It's no more there. And we experience the bliss. And out of ignorance, I think that the object has given me happiness. That's the ignorance. So once the ignorance has vanished, I know it is the self and self alone which is the source of all the bliss. All the objects are unsubstantial, shunya. They are just like the painted moon. The real moon is myself. So once I have seen that, how can I anymore indulge in the so-called the world of name and form? The renunciation happens spontaneously. The attachment falls off naturally. So for an ordinary person, so-called detachment is a matter of will. That my mind is feeling attraction for certain thing, I use my willpower to detach myself from that. But for a man of realization, the renunciation has become spontaneous because he sees it just as a mere virtual reality. It has lost a sense of substantiality. It has no substance. So there is no question of feeling attached to it. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that when the real renunciation is like the falling off of the scab from your wound. When the wound is healing, you will find a scab has formed over the wound. And if I forcefully get rid of the scab, the wound will lacerate. It won't heal. But when I find that the scab has fallen off, when it falls off, when the wound has healed, it falls off naturally. So when this wound of worldliness heals, when it heals, when we have realized our real nature, then this scab of attachment that falls off naturally. And that's the idea which has been spoken of here. When once you found the bliss in your own self, then what's the question? How you can engage anymore in your dealings with the world with a sense of attachment? It falls off naturally. And then in the 531st and the 532nd verse, what it is saying? Ayam atma nitya siddha pramane sati bhasate na desham na api kalam na shuddhim va api apekshate. So this Atman, which is an ever-present reality. Ayam Atma. Ayam means this Atma, self. Nitya Siddha. It is something which is an ever-present reality. Nitya Siddha. Pramane Sati. It manifests itself as soon as the right means of knowledge is present. It is always there. Because of ignorance, I was not aware of it. Pramane. Pramana means the real means of knowledge. When it is there, it manifests. It was there, it was hidden, now it's bhasate. Bhasate means it manifests. And once it manifests, na desham, na api kalam, na shuddhim, va api apekshate. So, that knowledge it does not depend either on place, desha, or time, kala, or any ceremonial purity, shuddhim. So for us, we find that the world distracts us, and what we do, we have some specified hours when a specified place, there is a small, most probably a corner of my house, there is an altar, a small shrine is there, and at certain time. Desha means the space. That's the space. And time, in the morning or in the late evening, after I come back from my work, or early in the morning, in the dusk, in the dawn, there's a kala. What I do some ceremonial purification. I wash myself, wear some clean cloth, and enter there. And then I feel, I am feeling blessed, as if I am in presence of the divine. The rest of the time, it was secular. Now this is the act of spirituality. We find Swamiji says, and nothing is secular. Everything is spiritual. If the world in essence is the divine and divine alone, then how can you have a watertight compartment between spirituality and secularity? Everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. Nothing is secular. So once you have realized, then there is no need for desha. That, I have to go to that corner of my house where the shrine is, and that also in particular time, and after doing some ritualistic cleansing, wearing some clean clothes, and then I feel I am feeling spiritual. All this falls off. Spirituality becomes spontaneous. It is something which is always there with me. In the words of Ramakrishna, it becomes like our toothache. Whatever we may be doing, when we have toothache, we can never forget about it. It's always there. On the background of my mind, a part of my mind is always experiencing that ache. I can never forget it. So similarly here, that he is always feeling the presence of the divine. He's always realizing the self. He's realizing the Atman, the Nitya Siddha, this self, which is always there. Now, there is no need for particular place, particular time, particular rituals to realize that. In all states of his life, he experiences that. Now just again this same example. That suppose a person's name is Devadatta. So aham Devadatta aham, I am Devadatta iti etat vijnanam nirapekshakam. What it means? That for say that I am Sunishthananda, or whatever your name, I am A, B, C, D, whatever the name. Do I ever forget it? Can I just ever forget it that I am this? I can never. In whatever actions I may be doing, whatever place I may be, whether I am here or whether I am in some other place, or I just go for some interstate visit, or I go overseas, whatever it may be. I know I am such and such. So a person called Devadatta says the same way. He knows I am Devadatta wherever he may be, in whatever desha, in whatever kala, in whatever state he may be, he knows. Similarly, Tattvat Brahma Vida api asya Brahmaham Brahma aham iti Vedanam. Vedana means realization. So similarly, a man of realization, the one who has known Brahman, Brahmavid, that Brahma aham, that I am Brahman, in whatever state he may be, he never forgets that. He always is aware of that fact that he is Brahman and Brahman alone. So but to go to that realization, as the verse says, that pramane sati bhasate. Pramana, that there is some procedure through which I went to that realization. What that procedure is? Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. If you have faith in the words of Guru, you approach your Guru. As you have faith in his words, whatever he instructs, you cogitate upon it. First, initially there may be a lot of gap in our understanding. With constant cogitation, gradually I developed an intellectual conviction. But that also is not realization. With intellectual conviction, I may feel, I have understood. But when we face the challenges of life, we will find that my intellectual knowledge is not helping me in any way. That Swamiji is that wonderful story, the story of the stag, a male deer. He used to say, to explain that the intellectual conviction is not realization. It is not something which is beyond space, time, and your purity, all the procedures for your external purity. It is not something beyond that. It is restricted by that. How? That is that wonderful example. That is, the stag was feeling that it's very strong. It was seeing its own reflection in a reservoir, and it was feeling how strong. Seeing his muscular limbs, he was full of pride. He was bragging. Just see how muscular my limbs are. He was bragging to the fawn, the young deer. The small young deer was just by the side of this stag. He was pawning. He was bragging. And suddenly he heard the barking of a dog. He started running, frantically running. He was very scared. After a long distance, when it felt that it is safe, it stopped. And the fawn which followed him, now the fawn asked, "What made you so scared that you started running? You were so confident just now." And then the stag says, "I don't know what happens to my confidence when I hear the barking of the dog." So our intellectual conviction is like that. It makes us feel, I am strong. I have read, I am Atman, I am Brahman, I am convinced. There is no doubt about it. Now nothing can waver me from that. But the moment I come out from my meditation or come out from my contemplation, deal with the world, the challenges of the world disturbs me. What has happened? I was deluded in thinking that my intellectual conviction is realization. No. The manana has to be followed by nididhyasana. Once I have that intellectual conviction, now I have to meditate upon it. Constant meditation upon your intellectual conviction is the nididhyasana till it takes to the realization. Then, once you go to the realization, then there is no question of wavering from your realization. In whatever state you may be, you always know you are that. As in the Aratrikam song, we was singing about Ramakrishna, that he is Gata Sangshaya, Drira Nishchaya. That for a man of realization, the same thing applies. He is Gata Sangshaya, Drira Nishchaya. What it means? Sangshaya has become past tense. Gata. Gata means past. What? Doubt. No more doubt. Doubt is something which is past tense. Drira Nishchaya. His conviction has become drira. It has become very strong. It has a very strong foundation. Nothing can waver it. So drira nishchaya. He is firm in his conviction and his doubts has all vanished. He is always aware of his real nature. And for that we find Swamiji is giving a very nice and he is relating another very nice some anecdote in one of his lectures. That a realized saint, a realized sage used to reside in a forest. He used to just sit under the shade of a tree, and constantly he used to go on chanting, Soham, Soham, I am that, I am that. He never used to move from his seat. The villagers who stayed in the opposite side, the forest was on the bank of a river. On the other side of the river there was a village. Those villagers used to sometimes cross the river, and they knew that the saint is there, sage is there. They used to go and offer him the bhiksha, the food offerings they used to give him. And that's how the sadhu was constantly engaged in his meditation and used to chant, Soham, Soham, I am that, I am that. And he was a realized soul. What's the proof of his realization? One day it so happened, a tiger pounced upon him when he was sitting under the shade of the tree, and it dragged him deep into the forest. The villagers from the other side of the river could hear the chant Soham, Soham. It was fading. As the tiger was dragging it to the deep forest, the chant, the sound was becoming more and more inaudible as he was being dragged. But till his last breath, the chant never stopped. It went on. Soham, Soham. So that speaks of going beyond Desha Kala Shuddhi Vapi. It has become his realization. Nothing, even at the point of death, that realization can never be taken away. Once you have realized, that becomes this state of awareness. So that's the thing which is being indicated, that na desham, na api kalam, na shuddhi va api apekshate. So he goes beyond this desha kala shuddhi, always established in the self. So then we find in the 337th verse what is being said, kshudham deha vyathang tyaktva valah krirati vastuni tathaiva vidwan ramate nirmamo nirahang sukhi. So when the child is playing with the toys, he is so absorbed with the toys, he forgets his hunger and bodily pains. Kshudham, this hunger, deha vyatham, bodily pains. He is not aware. He is so involved with the toys. Tathaiva, similarly, vidwan, a man of realization, ramate nirmamo nirahang, mamata ahamta, me and mine. So he has this me and mine has fallen off from him. He has gone beyond that. The idea that I am this body-mind complex is no more there. That I am body-mind complex, and with this body-mind complex, everything is related. Whatever things I possess, that's mamata. Ahamta, mamata. Ahamta is, this is me and these are all mine. So this sense has fallen off. He knows he is the self and self alone. So he now, knowing that, always established in the bliss of his self, he moves in this world. Sukhi, he is always happy. He is never, you will find never, he is ever dejected. Nothing can affect him. So here we find that the once you are absorbed in certain thing, it makes you forget other things. You enter into a state of flow. You'll find that the one who is very much passionate about instrumental music, he is so absorbed when he is playing, he forgets. For hours he or she will be playing. That he needs food, that hunger has fallen off. That he needs sleep, he is tired. All those things falls off. Why? Because as the mind is fully focused on what he is doing, then a part of the mind has to get connected with all the bodily feelings. That when I'm hunger, this hunger is also a type of this feeling, this hunger, thirst, tiredness. These are all the biological alarms. The mind has to get connected to them. But the mind has been taken away by some other object of passion. So though these alarms are there, biological alarms are there, the mind in no way gets connected with them. So as a result, he doesn't feel them. So the same thing happens with a small child who is busy with his toys, so absorbed. The other things he forget. So here, just to show that a man of realization, his absorption is that intense, but not for the objects of the world. This absorption is in his identity of the self. It is so intense that he has become Videha. Though still he is in the body, he has no feeling of the body. That's the idea of Videha Janaka. The king Janaka is called Videha. That he was running the kingdom. He was the king, but he was called Videha. Why? Being a realized soul, he was always absorbed in his self. So he was in the body, but he never felt that he has the body, because the bodily feelings has fallen off. That's the idea of Videha. So he becomes like Videha. He's always absorbed in his self. Sometimes we find people have become absent-minded. That's not the sign of spirituality. Someone told, Jadu Malik, I saw that he is a bit absent-minded, that when he's taking food, whether there is salt in his food, he doesn't observe. Sri Ramakrishna told there are two types of absorption. One is this absorptions for the Vishaya, for the things of the world, for the worldly attachment. With that you may forget. You were thinking of your lawsuit. You are so engrossed in the thought that makes you forget everything. When you are taking food, you don't even realize its taste, whether salt is there or not, because you are absorbed in the thought of the world. But for a realized soul, as we studied in the Bhagavad Gita, Sa Nisha, this what is Nisha? For the night for a worldly person, Tasyang Jagarti Sangyami. Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam, Tasyang Jagarti Sangyami. That what is night for the entire world, there we find a man of realization is awake. What it means? That we are not aware of the self. And a man of realization is constantly aware of the self. He is awake there. And for him, the world has fallen off. He has become Nir Mamo, Nir Aham. Aham has fallen off. Mamata has fallen off. He is always absorbed in the self. So, this is the idea of this Videha. When you get totally absorbed in the bliss of the self, that's what it happens. This section, that the instruction, final instruction of the Guru to the disciple, this section we will conclude the discussion by studying the 542nd verse. It is a very, very important verse. It is a very one of oft-quoted verse of Vivekachudamani. What it is saying? Kvachit murah vidwan, kvachit murah vidwan kvachit api maharaja bibhava kvachit bhranta somya kvachit ajagara achara kalitah kvachit patribhuta kvachit avamatah kva api aviditah charati eva pragyah satatang paramananda sukhitah. So sometimes you will find a man of realization, he is appearing as a fool, kvachit murah, sometimes a fool, vidwan kvachit, sometimes a learned person, vidwan, man of realization, vidwan, he is sometimes a learned person, sometimes a fool, kvachit api maharaja bibhava, sometimes he is possessed of regal splendor. He appears to be something like a king, Maharaja, with regal splendor, with royalty. Kvachit bhranta, sometimes he appears like a mad person, confused. Somya, sometimes he wears a very benignant expression, very benign. He appears to be very calm and benign. Somya. Kvachit ajagara achara kalita, sometimes behaves like a motionless python. We will come to the discussion. Kvachit patribhuta, sometimes he is honored. Patribhuta means who is honored. This showering honor to someone, it means patribhuta. So sometimes he is honored. Kvachit avamata, sometimes he is insulted. Kva api avidita, sometimes he is totally unknown. He is moving around, no one is caring about him. Indifferent, avidita, unknown. That's how charati eva pragya. Satata, in all this, whatever state he may be, satata paramananda sukhita, that he is happy, ever happy with the supreme bliss. He moves around in this, a man of realization. He moves around in this world, sometimes appearing like a fool, sometimes as a learned person, sometimes like a royal being, sometimes like a confused mad person, sometimes very benign, sometimes behaving like a motionless python, sometimes honored, sometimes insulted, sometimes like an unknown Indian person. What it means? Well, sometimes a fool, where we find in presence of academicians, the so-called who study the scriptures appear to be learned, but they have not yet realized the essence of the scriptures. In their presence, he may appear as a fool. Why? Because he finds what's the use of that discussion without realization. Like a man who have tasted the mango, if he finds a group of people who have not tasted the mango discussing on the taste of mango, lot of arguments going on, they are all discussing. Will the person who have tasted the mango find any interest in that discussion? No. Because what they are discussing is ativada. So they are discussing something which is beyond their realization. Ativada means, vada means speech, ati means transcend. So their speech has transcended the realization. They haven't realized, they're speaking. So in their presence, he will be just keeping quiet, just like a fool, as if he have understood nothing. Because it is useless to talk in their presence. And sometimes he is a learned person. When he really finds someone is a genuinely interested soul, that not mere intellectual gymnastics, or just to satisfy one's intellectual curiosity. One is a true seeker, or one who has realized. He finds to him he can relate, to such a person. And in their presence, he appears like a learned, kvachit, vidwan kvachitapi. And then this Maharaja Vibhava, sometimes possessed of this regal splendor, he appears to be royal. What it means? We'll find that in various traditions, parampara, that when the monks are all staying together, that is a monk who has went through that realization. Now that also is after all like a society. The other monks think that he is the one who should be the head, the pontiff of the monastery. He is the realized soul. Now, being the head of the monastery, just to run a monastery, there is need for wealth. Lot of wealth is there. That why such a person is made the pontiff? Because all the monks know that once you go to that realization, you become nirmamo. You become nirahankara. There is no mamatva. There is no desire, no attachment. So the wealth which is the common property for all, it is for the welfare of the entire monastery. So no one should in any way use it for their personal gains. It's for the welfare of the entire monastery. So someone should be made a trustee of that wealth, who has no desires. So for a man of realization, we find is generally chosen as such a pontiff. Externally, it may appear he is like a wealthy person. Being the head of the monastery, the so-called the institution, they make it sure that he holds that position, that there should be some respect shown to him. There should be some sign of that splendor, so that all can understand that he is the head of the institution. So that may make one feel that he is something like the king of the king, like these all the Mahamandaleshwaras. But it is just something which has been attributed to him. That person as such is nirmamo. He is in no way attached. So he may appear like a king, but as such he has no sense of attachment to all those adorations, to all those attributes which has been thirsted upon him. So that's the idea of this Maharaj as a pontiff of a monastery or of a religious organization. He may be appearing as a royal, having a royal bearing, but that in no way affects his realization. Deep within, as far as subjective realization is concerned, he is always established in the bliss of the self. Sometimes he may appear as a mad person, the so-called among the worldly minded people who have no interest in spirituality. They cannot relate to the spirituality. He may appear as a mad person. We find in Dakshineshwar, there was such a mad person. Suddenly he came to Dakshineshwar. All thought him to be mad. Why? That where all the, the defiled food, that after serving all the plates, all the used plates, plates in India, that the disposable plates are made of leaves. So all those who have taken the food, all those disposable plates, the leftovers, has been thrown. And this mad person will go there and start eating food along with the dogs sitting there. It was a disgusting scene to see. All the people thought he's a madcap. Sri Ramakrishna, being a man of realization, he himself is a realized soul, avatar. He could recognize that who he is. So he told Hridaya, he appears to be mad, but he is a man of realization. So hearing from his uncle that he is a man of realization, he is a Brahmavid, now Hridaya starts following him. Now he has to behave like a mad person. Why? Because he knew the worldly people always come to him maybe for worldly gains. They will ask for wealth, or if they are sick, they want health, they want money. And to avoid such person, he will abuse them. And even still, if you cannot, they were not desisted, he will throw stones on them. So seeing Hridaya, he also behaved the same way. He started throwing stone on him. But Hridaya was not deterred. He still, as he has heard from his uncle, from Sri Ramakrishna, that he is a man of realization, still he followed. And seeing him so much insistent, at last, what he said was something priceless. What he told? That the moment you see that, there was some sewage canal passing nearby, he said, the water in the sewage canal is dirty, you consider it as dirty. The day you see the Ganges water and the sewage water as having no difference, as the same, no, that's when you have attained realization. So just see, he appears to be madcap, but he is a man of realization. He has attained that state of samadarshitva. In everything he sees Brahman and Brahman alone. But to an ordinary person, worldly minded person, he appears like a madcap. Sometimes wearing a benign expression. So in the presence of those who are tormented by afflictions, we find Sri Ramakrishna is full of that karuna, compassion. The householders are coming to him, they are afflicted, full of suffering. So in the presence of such persons, he appears so benign, compassionate. So he may be compassionate at certain times in presence of the so-called afflicted souls. And then Kvachit Patribhuta. We find in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, Keshav came and he realized Sri Ramakrishna's greatness and he started preaching to all in general that he is a man of realization. He was showing him a lot of respect. That's Patribhuta. And Kachit Avamata. When Mathur understood Sri Ramakrishna's spirituality and he was showing a lot of respect, we find the priest, the Mathur's family priest, his name was Chandra Haldar. He became very jealous of Ramakrishna because he thought Ramakrishna started influencing Mathur, and all the favors he won't get any more. So one day, finding Ramakrishna sitting, he was actually in a deep state of samadhi. He was in a state of bhava. And no one was near him. Seeing him, Chandra thought, this is the time. I have to teach him a lesson. And he went and constantly started asking Ramakrishna. He was asking him, pestering him, that what's the jadoo, what's the magic you have done that made Mathur always follow you? Now Sri Ramakrishna was in a deep state of contemplation, so he couldn't talk. He was just sitting quietly. And Chandrahaldar never realized that why Ramakrishna is quiet. He thought that he doesn't want to divulge the secret. And at last he became so impatient, he kicked Ramakrishna. And Ramakrishna never reacted. He never even complained to Mathur. He knew very well, if he just mentions Mathur once, this Chandrahaldar will be kicked out from his job. So out of compassion he never mentioned. So what it shows, that sometimes he may be insulted, but he is always established in himself. He never reacts. Kvapi avamata. And sometimes avidita. Another realized soul, Holy Mother. She was in Dakshineshwar. Someone came and asked, I have heard that the Paramahansa's wife stays here. Where she lives? And the officials told, we have heard that yes, the Paramahansa's wife stays here, but we have never seen her. Totally avidita. She is keeping herself totally unknown to others. But in whatever state they may be, they are always in bliss. As Holy Mother said, that I used to feel that a pitcher of bliss is as if installed in my heart. And she is again saying about Ramakrishna, that I have never seen him dejected. I have never seen him unhappy. So because they are always established in the self. So that's the idea which has been spoken of. In whatever state you may be, whatever appearance it may be, the man of realization is always established in the self. So with this, the final this instruction of the Guru to the disciple, this discussion we come to a conclusion. Few more verses are there. So it will take another few more classes, maybe 2-3 more classes, before we conclude the discussion on the Vivekachudamani for the time being. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.